An Alolan Exeggutor has been spotted, and not in the Alolan region, and of course everybody is picking up that this is a huge deal. Welcome back to the Lumiose Post, where we talk about all things Pokemon, and today we're going to be talking about the future of regional variants and how the Indigo Disc, which is the second part of Scarlet and Violet's DLC, may have just changed this concept forever going forward. This is huge and very exciting. So let's break down what was seen. So in the most recent, at the time of recording at least, trailer for Scarlet and Violet's DLC, we saw that when they were showing off the Indigo Disc, there is a world beneath Blueberry Academy called the Terrarium. And in this Terrarium, we saw that there are seemingly wild Alolan Exeggutor. Now, I guess there is the small chance these are not wild and this is all just very misleading, but no, I do believe these are wild. There's multiple of them. I think that was totally what they were wanting to show and make us all go, wait, wild Alolan forms, what does this mean? So yeah, I'm sticking with wild, but yeah, we saw wild Alolan Exeggutor in this Terrarium. Now, this Terrarium is not in the Alola region, at least as far as we know, and I don't think it is, but rather is in the middle of the ocean, and in this Terrarium, they are able to replicate environments. Like, this whole world is set underwater, but we're seeing that they have the climate of a desert. We see that there are glaciers where Seal and Dugong can survive, and there's snow falling, so these people found a way to pretty much manipulate climate, weather, you know, the type of habitats these Pokemon can live in. So it seems like they're even able to replicate the environmental conditions needed for different regional variants to survive, such as Alolan Exeggutor, a Pokemon that we can only find in the Alolan region, being able to survive outside of the Alolan region. Not even being able to survive, but being able to just naturally occur here. The implication here is that if we're able to find Alolan Exeggutor in this part of the map, which by the way is this little tropical looking section in the 4 quadrants of the Terrarium, the one that's the most tropical looking, obviously, that seems to be the Alolan one. But the implication here is that we could find other Alolan forms here. So maybe we will also find wild Alolan Grimer or wild Alolan Meowth. Also, the implication would be that if we go and we picnic here and I have my Cantonian Muck in the party, well, my Cantonian Muck's egg is going to hatch into an Alolan Grimer if my Muck had that egg in this Alolan environment. Which may not be a huge deal because you can already manipulate the type of form you'll get with an Everstone, but this is a big deal to players who have not played Sun and Moon or, you know, don't have access to an Alolan Grimer or an Alolan Muck. This is a way that they will be able to get that Pokemon, and the same goes with other regional variants too, like Alolan Meowth or Alolan Geodude, etc., etc. This would then also mean that we'd be able to evolve Pokemon into their regional variants here. Some Pokemon have regional variants in only part of their line. Like, for example, the Pikachu line, there is a Alolan variant for Raichu. There's an Alolan Raichu and a Cantonian Raichu. However, there is no Alolan Pikachu or Alolan Pichu. It's just Raichu. So the difficulty here is that whenever you catch a wild Pikachu, it'll always evolve into whatever that region set in. But now, you can just bring a Pikachu to this part of the Terrarium, and it'll evolve into an Alolan Raichu. So, the kind of neater thing about this is, since backwards compatibility doesn't work with Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, since those are 3DS games and not Switch games, you could actually now get Alolan Raichu in different marks, like different regional marks, which may not be a huge deal to a lot of you, but a lot of people like to collect different Pokemon like that. So now you can catch a Cubone in Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. So I'll have the little Sinnoh regional mark and then evolve it here if Cubone becomes available in DLC. And then you'd have an Alolan Marowak with the BDSP mark. You can catch a Pikachu in Pokemon Legends Arceus, bring it here and evolve it here, and then you'll have an Alolan Raichu with the Legends Arceus mark. Again, not a huge deal, but there are some people that are interested in that, so I did want to throw that out there. Now, the bigger thing about this discovery of the Terrarium is that the implication could even be that other environments are being replicated here. Like, we do see that there is a really snowy looking area. Well, that kind of reminds me of the climate of the Galar region. So perhaps in this tropical area where we have Alolan forms, we'll then also have the snowy area have Galarian forms. Perhaps here we'll find wild Galarian Weezing, and, we'll be able to take regular Coughing and they'll evolve into Galarian Weezing, and, be able to hatch, Zigzagoon, if that's a Pokemon that comes back, and it hatch into a Galarian Zigzagoon here, which is really, really big. But the question is, if we go, okay, this tropical environment is Alola, this snowy environment is Galar, well, what about these other two regions? Now, I would just go ahead and say the desert is probably going to be a regular biome. Pokemon are going to evolve here just normally, like however they would normally evolve. So if I evolve a Pikachu here, it's just going to be Raichu. Likewise, if I evolve a Coughing here, it's just going to be regular Weezing. It's not going to be any kind of regional variation. But then you have this more mountainous area over here, and you think, what could be here? Now, my first initial thought was Hisui, but to be honest, and I've covered this a lot in past videos, I honestly think that Hisui, any ties to it, will be done in Kitakami. So Kitakami will probably give us access to these Hisuian variants and these exclusive to Hisui evolutions. Now, this still means that this mountainous area would be a question, and I would say that the mountainous area could actually be a Paldea replicated environment. It makes sense from a story sense, because you have to think the Blueberry Academy is not in the Paldea region, so it would make sense for them to go, okay, let's have an environment that also replicates Paldea, because that's not natural to us. So it makes sense from a story perspective, but it also makes sense from a gameplay perspective too, because then that allows you to basically access every kind of variant in these two DLC areas. So the DLCs together, the Hidden Treasure of Area Zero together, will give you access to every single variation that you can find of Pokemon, assuming those Pokemon are in the game. The reason that I'm saying this could be Paldea is really not only because of the reasons I just mentioned, but also because this kind of mountainous area does remind me of the northeastern part of the Paldea map. That's like kind of the bamboo forest area and the dragon area where you find Dratini and lakes and stuff. I could really see the similarities between this and that, so maybe that's it. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it is Hisui, maybe it's nothing, but that's what I'm going to be sticking with. But yeah, this really would be a huge deal, because all you'd have to do is go to Kitakami to get your Hisuian forms, and go to Blueberry Academy to get your regular forms, your Paldea forms, your Galarian forms, and your Alolan forms, and I do think that would be super convenient for all of us. You can just get them in pretty much one place, because, the Hisui Mons, a lot of us are already going to have those. It's Legends Arceus, it's very recent, but you can kind of go get all the other ones just in Blueberry Academy, which is going to be very convenient. But more importantly, I think going forward, we could see areas like the Blueberry Academy's Terrarium in future Pokemon games. I had previously talked about on this channel a couple times, I think, about how regional forms aren't really sustainable. Like, they're super cool and they are beloved by the fan base, so I'm not saying they should get rid of them, but I'm saying they would get rid of them, or at least that's what I used to think. And the reason why this is because look at Alolan forms. Alolan forms are already 6 years old, because the last time you could get them was in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, which came out in 2017. So 6-year-old game that you can get access to all of these Alolan forms in. Well, let's say for a moment that we're going to get Unova remakes this year, or this gen, and then we're going to get Kalos remakes in Gen 10, and then Alolan remakes in Gen 11, which, for the record, I don't think that'll be the order we get them, but just illustrating that bare minimum, we get Alola in Gen 11. That still will be 6 to 7 more years before we see another Alolan game, which means that by then, these regional variants will be 13 years old. So you think, I'm 22 years old. I will be 35 the next time I can go to the Alola region. There are plenty of kids that will be playing Pokemon then that, have never had, or before them rather, in Gen 10, that never had access to the Alola games. So they're going to want to find a way to make these things sustainable, to make them obtainable in games. And I really think that these kind of manipulated environments is the way to do it. You could even have games kind of drop a little bit of dialogue, like, yeah, we actually got this technology by getting in touch with this research company or this school that's actually located in the middle of the ocean, just as a little tiny nod to the first place they did it, as well as just some world building by saying that the technology we see across all these different facilities would all be from the Blueberry Academy. This was actually, fun fact, previously speculated to be the case in Sword and Shield. Many people thought that we would see greenhouses in these games because there's a very large greenhouse in the real world UK, and people thought that there we'd be able to manipulate the environment to give us Alolan forms or give us access to non-Galarian evolutions such as Cantonian Weezing. This did not end up being the case, but I do think greenhouses is the way to go. Like, you have a lot of areas that you could use as greenhouses going forward. Like, I think about in Alola, obviously you could do this with the Ether Foundation, with Ether Paradise rather. You could have their little room with the manipulated environment give you access to Alolan or Galarian and Paldean forms, while the rest of the Alola region would obviously give you your Alolan forms. You could have I think about Mistralton City in the Unova region. There are greenhouses there. They could add a little expansion to it where you can go inside them now and get access to different forms. This would really make a lot of sense, and also, I mean, it would be easy to do. You think these greenhouses wouldn't have to be super expansive worlds like the Blueberry Academy's Terrarium. It would really just have to be a room where I can go in and I can either real quickly evolve my Pikachu into a Raichu so I can get the Alolan form, or I can go in and breed my Cantonian Muck so it hatches into an Alolan Muck. That's it. It doesn't have to have these Pokemon in the wild. It just has to be a room where you can breed or evolve your Pokemon, which you could with experience candies or rare candies, or of course, like in Pikachu's case, a Thunderstone, to be able to manipulate the evolution you're going to get. But yeah, I really think this could be the future of regional variants, and this could be how they keep them sustainable, which is incredible to me because I think regional variants are super, super cool, and I mean, some of them are genuinely some of my favorite Pokemon. Like the Alolan Vulpix line is just chef's kiss. Sirfetch'd is one of my favorite Pokemon, so I just love that all of this could be done in every game with the use of greenhouses or manipulated environments like the Ether Foundation, etc., etc. I'd love to know your thoughts on this, so be sure to leave those in the comments below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss all of our future Pokemon videos. And until next time, I will see all of you later.